So you've heard us talk about the fact that we've had to shift our schedule around a little bit today. So we are going to do the session that was originally we thought was going to be after lunch right now, which is Stephen Cavett from Iconic Sound, who is going to talk to us about Hearing is Believing. Stephen's going to be joined on stage by Bingo So, Rob Wyatt, Paul Osterhout, and Frida Guao. Please come on down to the stage, everyone, and we will get started. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Good. Hi, I'm afraid we have one more obstacle between you and lunch. But I have a little bit of snow, so maybe there'll be some magic. Hi, I'm Stephen Cavett. I'll be moderating today's panel, Hearing is Believing, on immersive and interactive audio. I'd like to thank the TEA for this wonderful opportunity today. I'd also like to thank co-chairs Christine Kerr, Paul Kent, Thomas Megna, and David Wilrich. I'd also like to thank Tim for helping out with some of the kinks at the end. So thank you very much. Few people in our industry need convincing that audio is a great and necessary storytelling tool. But how do we best work together to achieve a memorable result? Skip ahead a little bit. Yeah. How do we work together to achieve a memorable result? What kinds of tools are available? What new ones are coming for 3D audio in particular? And perhaps most important, how do we know what to look for and how to ask for it? Getting the details right is the most challenging part of any project. Audio is no different. In fact, audio may even be that much more challenging because it's often considered late in the project lifecycle, and also is a bit of an abstract idea that is easy to appreciate but difficult to achieve. These are some of the basic ideas we'll talk about today, and with some luck, we'll walk out of here with a better understanding of audio in general and immersive 360 audio in particular for the themed entertainment space. Of all the senses, by far, the quickest to the brain is audio. An audio impulse travels from the ear to the brain via a complex twist of ear canals, fibers, natural amplifiers, and neurons in under 5/100ths of a second. Sight and touch are far behind, coming in at 0.2 of a second, so nearly 50 times faster with audio. What does this mean? First, it suggests that hearing is our most critical survival sense. Consider that our ears never turn off. When we sleep, our other senses rest while our ears remain alert and open. For survival, hearing a warning sound is our best chance of escape, even today. By the time you see a charging lion, dinosaur, or food delivery scooter, it's probably going to be too late. Second, for us storytellers, it means we have a primal sensory connection at our disposal to create a very broad range of emotions, and more importantly, draw focus to any place in a 360-degree field, and in any way the storyteller needs to advance the narrative. This is a very new development in technology of storytelling, and we will discuss this. Because of its quick ascent to the brain and its connection to our most primal selves, audio can be truly foundational in setting up storylines and creating compelling environments. And best of all, it costs quite a bit less than concrete and steel. Hearing gives us permission to feel a certain way. It gives us context. It's the front line in understanding our environment. There's a saying in the USA, we eat with our eyes. I believe in a similar way, we see with our ears. So how do we unlock all this potential? Answering that question is our goal for the afternoon, but 3D audio is the focus of our panel, so we'll get back to that concept. A few basic definitions to start. What is immersive audio? Broadly, immersive audio is sound that immerses you in your environment. How we accomplish that immersion is really what we're talking about today. So what we really want to say is directional audio, using technology to place sounds very specifically and accurately in a 360-degree field. What is interactive audio? This idea is a little more narrowly focused and boils down to audio that responds to its environment in real time. Here we're talking about personalized audio. It can be catered to interact with guests, movement, randomized cues. It can be triggered or synced with any kind of effect, or it can even take the form of non-repeating stream, creating a convincingly natural environment, never repeating the same sound twice, very much like our own life experience. So let's establish these two important concepts: directional audio for immersive, personalized audio for interactive. The goal of themed entertainment is to create meaning, a journey, a story, one that fills our guests with memorable experiences derived from joy, excitement, scares, fear, tension, and connection. Even with mono audio, a skilled sound designer or composer will be able to tap into your deepest emotions. However, as technology has progressed, the designed audio environment has become more and more convincing. We're at the doorstep of the future of audio. We can accurately replicate the world around us in a full 360-degree field. But not only that, today we're able to create completely new worlds, bend reality, develop a new creative reality that is limited only by what the story requires and the imagination of the creatives that make it. So I'm going to skip to a few examples of my work. Actually, we'll do a quick agenda. So we're doing the topic introduction. Christine introduced the panel, and we will get to the moderated panel discussion right after this. So I'm going to give you a little tour of a sound cue. Please stop. So this is a project I worked on, Ice Age, No Time for Nuts. I wiped all the audio out. I don't get a project like this typically. It doesn't arrive to me this way, but we're going to look at it just with image. To me, I'm biased, but this is unwatchable. Let's see with just sound effects. Same thing. Now we add the temporary sound effects. Does audio help us relate to Scrat a little bit more, maybe? All right, fun. Now let's see what we ended up with. See what you think of this. Here's the snow, by the way. Very good. A little better? I did a similar panel in Los Angeles a few weeks ago, and people mentioned, even though these are exactly the same timed clips, that the last one felt faster. Seems so to me, and I think this goes back to the idea of permission, that the audio, the music gives it context and pace, and I guess the saying, time flies when you're having fun. So let's skip on to similar thing. I also worked on we're just going to go right. This kind of has a mind of its own. I worked on a project for Fox called Alien Descent. It was a VR project, so my company did all the sound design and music, but also we did the technical implementation, which means we put all the sounds in the 360 space. So I believe we're going no effects. Yeah, so this is just silent. So I would get something like this at the beginning of the project. They're just polygons. This is before any artwork is put on the structure, but that's the basic structure of the scene. And then we put some sound effects in there and get something like this. Now imagine you're in the middle of this space and that thing comes right up at you and you're hearing that tail whip right around over your head. There were a lot of scenes in this particular project where things are running up behind you, coming from up above, from below. And we were really taking advantage of this idea that the audio gets there first. And by the time you turn around, the thing's right in your face. It's quite terrifying. Here is the final scene where they're picking you up. So we get a very big ship that's coming in all around your head. There were also transducers in the stage where you were standing, and as you'll see, when it comes up to you, the whole floor is shaking, like there's a big engine over your head. So we actually used, I think, 5 different sounds to make that big rumbling engine noise there. And it's also probably worth noting, when we're doing designing for a 3D space, we don't just create a space. There are several different spaces. So when the thing is very far away, it's a completely different zone with a completely different ambient sound. And as it gets closer, it changes. The environment changes, and we're able to do that because of computing power. So it's very not static. It's a very dynamic process, and it's very complicated, but because of the technology we have, we're able to do that, and those fine details make it a very convincing environment when you're in it. So I think we are going to get on to our panel. So firstly, I'd really like to thank Rob and Paul, who are last-minute additions. We had a dropout, and again, when we were in California a few weeks ago, we had the benefit of some great creative minds to help us make this audio idea relatable to designers. And so thank you to Paul and Rob for being here. We also have Bingo Tso and Frida Guo, who are going to help us talk about the nerdy technology of audio. So I have some questions, and we'll get a discussion started, and hopefully we will get down to the bottom of 3D audio. So, question number 1. What effect does audio have in your respective fields, and in particular, what would an immersive 360 audio element add? And I think I can just go down the line, and we can have a brief.
For me, the greatest thing about audio, the use of audio or sound in an attraction is there are so many different levers to pull. You've got, obviously we talk about audio, we talk about dialogue, sound effects, and music. And each one of those levers can be pulled in a different way to create emotion. When you think about changing pace, which causes somebody to feel threatened. The other thing about audio that is so different than visual or smell is, for me, audio touches 2 of my senses. I can hear it and I can feel it. And when you can feel it, it sometimes causes a sense of impending threat. And when you're in a theme park environment, sometimes everything can go wrong, right? We're used to that. So when you are able to get this sense of threat through a feeling, through almost like a haptic, but by sound pressure, it just adds another dimension to storytelling.
And that's very much what we were doing. Similar idea with those big engines coming right in over your head and the transducer literally shaking you.
Yeah.
So yes, and tapping into that primal feeling.
And there's something about sonic signatures as well. If I went dun 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 dun, everybody knows what that is, right? And then automatically you feel a sense of, uh-oh, I have to get out of the water. So if you can create some kind of sonic signature in an attraction, then there's this sense of memory that you take with you and remember that attraction in a whole different way.
Great, thank you. So Rob, you've worked on some very interesting projects in your career.
It's funny, I look at moments where, this was probably when I first started in the industry, and I was walking down Main Street at Disneyland, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. All the lights were on, and the audio was playing. And it's an unforgettable kind of emotional hook. The moment that audio started playing, it surrounded me all the way, 360 degrees. And there's something about that immersion, that having it surround you, along with then the memory of, working there for, a few years. And that to me is the power of audio, and that ability to, take you back to a moment in time, and really, has that emotional hook capability.
And you bring up a really good point that immersive audio isn't just technology.
Yes.
It can be, and I'm certainly espousing the idea that we can use technology to really create depth, in addition to the different levers you were talking about. But this has existed in human history since we've had ears. So it is technology we're talking about, but I think it's also important to acknowledge the fact that this has always existed.
Well, and it's the combination of the technology and the composition of the music to, basically force that emotional hook, right?
Absolutely, yes. Bingo.
Yeah. Can we speak in Chinese?
Yes, please.
Well, okay, we do it half, right? Frida and I is actually coming from engineering background. Throughout the many years that we have experiment into this audio stuff, from mono, when it's mono movie, mono hi-fi, stereo 4.1, 5.1, 7.1, and now we are come to the stage that the technology is really supporting the immersive sounds, just like this beautiful cinema, new cinema is in Atmos, which Dolby has developed. But I believe this is a kind of format that we are going to first. We fix a format that from Hollywood movies that we can put your creativity, your sounds anywhere, that repeatedly you can reproduce it in all over the world. So this is what Frida and I'm working. But recently we also, in response to, like you, in working in psychoacoustic, that how the sound will affect our sensing, our immersive experience. So let it become a more important part for us. We grew up with ambience. We grew up with radios, no visions. So we are accustomed to. We have a story in our mind. Even when we sleep, we listen to the radio. When we drive in a car, we have the whole immersive radio because of the sound environment. I know I'm in the car. So we're more paying attention to how the reality, how to do it, how to reproduce this immersive sound. But maybe Frida can join me for
Yes.
Can we do that? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're spilling into question 2, so I'm just going to click on over to that.
Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. And what types of immersive experiences have you created, and what was the audio component? So I think that's a perfect segue. And Frida, you can talk a little bit about the technical side of this. And I know from the Thea Awards that you did the camel bells, and that was a very immersive experience, but in a different way. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Hello. Can you turn just?
Is there? Okay, I got on. Okay, so may I speak in Chinese?
Yes, please.
Okay, my Chinese is much more better than my English. So, 其实我们有参与过很多的沉浸式音频类型的项目，就像刚刚 Bingo 说的，其实我们是做很多的大型的演出。那实际上沉浸式音频呢，它不光是就是在电影 Atmos， 然后这些环节有，现在越来越多的这些主题演绎、现场演出都开始使用了沉浸式的音频。那比方说刚刚那个Stephen 有提过的这个 Camel Bell， 就是我们有和 罗西亚的一个奖项的项目。那么它很 ，it's still here，so 那么在这个奖项中，其实我们做了一个360度环绕的一个沉浸式音频，包括顶部，包括整个的平面的空间。因为确实沉浸式音频可以把我们的观众从一个平面的2维空间带到一个更加立体的一个3维空间的感受中来。那我们在做这些项目的时候呢，比方说我们在做 Camel Bell 的时候，这个沉浸式音频的元素它的构成可能是有2部分，一部分就是环境的这种感觉，比方说你是要营造一个沙漠、一个海浪或者是一个类似的一个环境。那么还有一种的声音元素呢，是一些的效果声 （effect） 效果声。那比方说有鹰从你的头顶飞过，你不希望像传统的一样那个鹰从我的身边飞过，你还是希望它是有一个空间的感觉。所以我觉得确实沉浸式音频是一个很大的一个进步吧，在我们的音频领域。那当然就是从系统的结构上来讲，沉浸式音频带来了更大的一些挑战。因为毕竟不像电影的制式，每一个影院都是标准的影院，所以沉浸式音频它需要你根据不同的结构，然后不同的场地来设计你的不同的系统，这个是有很大的难度。
郭峰说刚才说那个沉浸式，其实我们很关心啊，你有很好的 idea， 你可以从一个飞船从你后面。的一个很空旷的地方，慢慢来到了前面，很实在的轰炸的一个感觉。这个，但是要是说这个是不是在一个标准的，它 sound mixing 的时候，它几乎是很难预计得到2个完全不同的空间。这个就是有关那个 acoustic 的 environment 的differences。所以呢，我们是想。要是我们在一个 studio 里面的创作，一个是在好莱坞的，一个在印度的，一个在中国做的，不同的老师的一些创意，我们怎么能把它在一个非标准的，举例说，我们就是用驼铃传奇，我们花了很多时间去研究，其实在声音设计。比较简单，但是到了现场，因为它整个舞台会转，而且它转那个中轴不是在一个中心，是在来回的跑动。那我们就是研究人对声音这个接受这个能力，高频、低频，它的均匀度，还有它各种不同的相位。大家知道，在不同的空间呢，它的相位是一干扰的话呢，你很好的声音它会做杂，但是有的时候它突然有爆1-2个出来，你是非常的一个不标准unpredictable。所以呢，这个我们谈的是不单只是我们这个创业，但是创业了以后。我们就是说怎么现实，在现实同时的过程，我们又发现，这些原来在录音棚做不到的事情，我们在这里又可以多做一点，因为这个空间不一样啊。但是我知道 Steven 有很多这种经验呢，他是把这个人的脑袋怎么分析啊，特别是一些专家他们说了这人的感受啊，所以我们希望能把这种感受呢，从一个从录音棚吧，从一个大小不一样的录音棚，它有不同的标准啊。这个200平米跟300平米的混录棚就跟50平米跟80平米不一样。到了一个标准的300座的 cinema， 有800座的 cinema。到3000人的一个现场环境，它是完全不一样的东西，所以我们就是想，从头怎么把它放到尾，然后在尾的时候，从头那个 element 不太一样的时候，我们怎么去克服？这个是我们要想的一些问题。Excuse us, sorry.
Well, I think.
All of it.
Okay, thank you.
Also, part of the technical revolution is the idea of the sharing economy, and I think we're doing a little example of that up here as well. So, what types of immersive experiences have you guys worked on? And again, this doesn't have to be necessarily 360 or technology based, but what was the effect of audio at that?
I've actually worked on 2 attractions that were about audio. The first one was Monster Sound Show. at Disney MGM Studios. It was essentially what you showed before, where you show a film without audio, and then you invite audience members to come up and be Foley artists, and they create the audio that goes with the film. And of course, it's all about timing and all of that stuff. But it was using a lot of low-tech early studio machines to create. They used like car disc brakes to create chimes in a church and all of those things that they used to do. The second attraction I did, which is much more high-tech, was a binaural audio show at Magic Kingdom. First attraction ever to close because it was too scary at Disney. Essentially, we recorded audio using an Aachen head, which, if you know what that is, it's actual physical head that has microphones built into the ear canals, and you record audio with it. And so the audio is 3D. It's the old style. I don't think it's done way anymore. But we would lock people in the chairs, and you would be in this laboratory, and this monster would escape, and you couldn't get out. And so screaming children, and because it was so real, it was so vivid, the binaural audio. So it was really my first use or introduction to a high-tech version of audio. Since then, we've been exploring ways, because kind of the theme that we've heard over and over again is, what's the next theme park kind of evolution? And we all think it's going to be more of a personalized experience. And of course, when you've got 3,000 people in a queue line, how do you make it personalized experience? Of course, localized, and I'm sorry, I'm not using the right term, but omnidirectional audio for each person. And so each person can have their own sonic experience depending on how they're interacting with the space. So we're working on some of that.
And that's very much what we're working on from the audio side. And this brings up an interesting point, a bit of a tangent, but I've talked to several people about this over the course of our work, and this has implications for people with hearing disabilities. So again, because of the ability of the computer to just churn data, the more we know about you, where you are, who you are, the more we can deliver a personalized experience. And that can include someone with a disability. It's a very new idea for us, and again, like in the technological world, you create a tool and then people completely change the meaning of that tool, and that's a good thing, and it requires us to be flexible and open-minded about how we develop, but it's something that opened our eyes, and we're working on. So in addition to just delivering an exciting and memorable emotional experience, this technology can actually just deliver an experience to someone who might not otherwise get it. But we skipped Rob, so let's talk a little bit about...
Real quick, I worked on the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library, and we did a special effects show called Lincoln's Eyes. So you saw the progression as he was first in office to when he was assassinated. And there's a moment in the show where the whole theater goes black except for some shadow play up above, and you see Booth, the assassin of Lincoln, and hear him talking and explaining how frustrated he is with the current situation and the president, he's terrible, et cetera, and you see him walking across, and the audio pans all the way, from here to there, and stage right to stage left, and it's a moment where you without a lot of light, without just shadow play and audio, directional use of audio, it really is an impactful moment in that show that I think audiences leave it going, wow, that was amazing, even though very simple process to make that happen. So
and that's a great point. Audio can reduce an experience to a very simple set of inputs. Can be completely dark and have audio and still be a convincing experience.
Absolutely.
I'm having a memory of a short discussion with Joe Rohde, who I'm sure we all know, and he said to me, he keeps in his mind this idea, would you rather watch an image without audio, which we did earlier, I thought it was unwatchable, or would you rather hear audio without image? And that goes back to what Bingo was talking about. Well, some of us older folks on the panel will remember just radio. And for that matter, driving in your car. We sit in traffic for a long time in Shanghai, right? And we don't watch things, we listen to things. And it makes the trip bearable.
There's an experiment that I usually tell young designers to do, and that is to watch a video that's pixelated but the audio is okay, and then watch another video where the image is okay but the audio is kind of broken up, and see which one you turn off first. You'll turn off the broken video one first every time.
And this is a good segue to question number 3. And I think we've already answered the first of these. What was the process integrating audio? So let's talk a bit about the collaborative process. So when you've implemented these projects, was there a composer, a sound designer, an implementer? And maybe we'll start in the back, Bingo and Frida. When you were implementing projects, you obviously work with other people who create the sound source. So tell us a little bit about what that's like.
其实呢，在中国的市场，做音频是一个非常非常末端的就是一个过程里面最末端的一节。可能我们一个项目中来了之后，导演会有一个概念，他有个 idea， 然后会找创意设计，然后会比方说舞美，那就是一些视频的东西会比较快的进去，然后接下来呢，可能连灯光都是会比音频更快一些。所以在中国的话，声音是非常末端才会到了我们的整个的一个项目中。那我们其实也是在不断的在努力的改进这一点。但是就像比方说如果以前吧，就是以前那些项目，如果只是立体声，或者是只是2个声道的这样子一个平面的播放的话，实际上我们不会很多的跟像作曲，然后或者是声音设计就不会有很多的交集，因为实际上作曲音乐创作出来之后，它在我们系统调试好，它来播放其实就 OK。但是现在因为越来越多的这些沉浸式音频，那我们需要知道，就是从声音设计的角度，哪些声音它是有故事的，所以这个故事就会指导我们在做整个的扬声器布局或者系统的设计的时候，我们怎么样能够把这个故事更好的体现出来。那这个也是我们在就是不断进行的一个过程。
So along the line that, this is rather unfortunate in China because sound design is non-existent. The sound guy is doing the sound system, doesn't really know what's the creativity the composer was doing, and the composer may not know what is the program and they compose. They just being paid, and I want this mood, sad, happy, and then I want a theme song. That's it. In the between, most of the director, they come with their own ideas of sound. They just clip out something, download something, MP3, and then say, "Oh, this is my music." And they go to rehearse with these things. So you have these numbers of unknowns. So the composer is composing an unknown final result. The director doesn't know how to request, and normally they are the dominator. I want this in this, but without knowing what they really want. And then many of the associate director, they perform their dance rehearsal with their own idea. And then we have this MP3 waveform, AIFF of different levels, different quality, distortion, come to the sound guy. Oh, you play this is your sound. And then we go out to an immersive sound system. So where do you start? Frida and I is now working through many years with the director, and gradually we tell them, get us involved in the beginning. The first step we've done is we use a better music. We call, well, don't give us MP3. We want original. We want better recording. Give it to us. If the studio guy or the composer, they have not done immersive sound, sometimes what we done, we just put mono stereo into immersive by processing, whether it's a delaying, phase shifting, FIR, we can do that. And sometimes we play the melody ourselves. We do it on site, which just augmenting to the original. But through the experience, we know more composer know us. At maybe starting 3 years ago, they start to give us the file. Either it's Pro Tools file or Nuendo files. Then we can start really on-site mixing. So we want audio, go there, but the trombone maybe boom, boom, boom. So we start to relating the sound to the real show. And most of the time, the effects they've done in the studio, just blind making. They don't know what's the sequence, they don't know what is the show. So sometimes we can use it if we have the file, but if they don't have it, we will find another sound substitute, and that we get a semi-final happy ending. But this is why we're here. We want China creator, investor, owners, directors, please pay attention to the audio. Let us work with you from the beginning, because we are not charging you now, maybe later.
Well, it's like you're magical, Bingo, because you just answered the next question.
I beg your pardon. Yeah.
No, that's great. And I think we can intermingle these ideas, because I think these are not just Chinese issues. I know from my experience that we come in very late in the process, in my opinion, too late. And I'm curious now to look at it through the creator's eyes.
Go ahead. It's my preference to bring in all the technical people as soon as I can. The world changes so rapidly in technology, I can't keep up with the latest innovation in audio. But if I can go to you and tell you, I want to do this thing where I bring people in and they go see this scene and I want them to feel this, and then you say, I have just the tool to do that. Or, yes, let's bring in some hardware people now, because we've got a localized source here and we've got this overall bed of music here. And to have you and all the technical people in early makes my job much easier.
Yes, and I've worked on projects where that's happened, and I can't stress how simple this idea is. There may or may not be money involved at the beginning, consulting or not, but regardless of that, it's a simple meeting, and I can sit in the room and maybe I say nothing, and that's great, because your ideas don't, there's nothing that obstructs what I'm going to do. But oftentimes there is something that I can add, and it may be off your radar at that moment. It may be something that you would be thinking about 6 months from now, but oops, we already built the thing. And
yeah, the reality is, early on, I don't know what the solutions are. So I ask technical people, how do I solve this problem? Leaving it to my own device, it'll be an inferior product.
And my background is doing composition for film, and very much the same idea. It's collaborative, and in the sense that you're talking about, where I don't want you to solve audio problems. That's why I'm here. I very much want you to tell me, what is your goal? What is the emotion you're trying to achieve? How are you trying to scare someone or delight someone? Because I've spent decades learning how to do that in my craft. So that's a perfect way to start a very dynamic and great collaboration. You were going to join.
So for me, it's about casting the right people for the jobs. And then you need a manager, an executive producer type, who keeps the team aligned and everybody focused on the vision, right? And then you need a a creative group that can really drive that creative and create a vision that is accessible to audiences and guests. And then at that point, once you have the essence of a vision, yeah, absolutely, bring the team in. And I agree with you that it's really about understanding what is available now that I want that animal to go over there, and I want it to sound like a big giant earthquake happening. We DJW and I worked on a project in it's called the Capitol Theater in Canada, and there's a train that comes on from stage right and goes stage left, and a real train comes on during the process. And he was able to design a AV system that could accommodate the vision, and then the group that did the composition, then added all the 1920s sounds and steam coming through and etc. And to me, that's a perfect example of you need each one of those key individuals in that room to the visionary to explain the vision, the AV guy to go, okay, this is what I'm going to design. This is how I'm going to design the system to be able to then accommodate that vision. So and then the composition guy and the sound design guy to go, all right, here's what we want it to sound like, and based on that history, these are the kinds of instruments they would have used, and etc. So
yes,
it's a great process.
Yeah, I can say from our side, we love challenges like that. Give me something I haven't done before. Let me build something that hasn't been seen or heard before.
Yeah.
That's our happy place. And yesterday something came up when Kelly Reiner and Jennifer Brown were talking about Lionsgate and thinking ahead. I think she said 5 years ahead, but I'm thinking a bit about that first meeting we have. You were talking about, and there's a lot of looking forward, sort of near term. And also, I think, far term, because you want to create a ride that has some staying power. And one of the dangers with technology is pinpointing a particular point in time. And technology moves very fast, so you can have a dated ride in just a matter of years. So it's important to bring people in who are forward thinking and working with new tools and experimenting new things. And this is a perfect segue to question 4. How do we balance these things? Paul, yesterday you talked about gimmicks. And we don't want to be gimmicky when we're using these tools. And for us, from my company, we spend a lot of time thinking about how we integrate this technology in a way that feels like it's always meant to be there. It's very integrated, and it fits within the context of what you're working on. So how do we achieve that balance?
You use the exact right word. It's a tool. Technology is a tool. I think if you can tell a very interesting story, tell it in a compelling way, being obsolete becomes less of a problem. Pirates of the Caribbean have been around for 30, 40, 50 years. Still fun attractions, old technology, but you still enjoy it because it's good storytelling. So I think if you and I in our first meeting can talk emotion and not, well, we have this cool speaker or I have this cool new plugin for Pro Tools, then we're going to be more successful.
And that's hard, I have to admit, because when you get shiny new things, you want to play with them.
Guilty.
Yes.
Guilty.
So there's effort. There's a lot of effort and thought that goes into this idea of balance, but balance is really the key, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I mean, I just try and think of it. I always go back to story, and people probably get tired of me hearing me say it, but if I go back to a story and I go back to how am I going to reach this audience and touch their emotion, and I've got all these tools now. They may be shiny tools, they may be old rusted tools, but more tools is better, not worse. It sometimes just makes it more difficult to make the right choices.
Yes, as long as you're thoughtful and sticking to the right thing, story as opposed to shiny thing.
Right.
So Bingo and Frida, you both work with lots of new shiny things. How do you guys approach this idea?
我觉得，接 像刚刚所说的，就是不管怎么样，其实所有的技术也好，故事也好，实际上都是为了观众的体验、游客的体验服务的。我们所有的技术性的环节都是为了增强游客的这种体验性。那同时呢，这种技术环节的这种就是增强，能够使你的故事讲得更加的动听。那可能有一些故事吧，你这样子平白无奇的讲给他，他可能不会有更多的体验，就是游客不会有一些互动、参与性的感觉。但像这些沉浸式音频这样的一些体验，它会使观众很快的就进入到你想要让他进入的一个场景当中，所以这个是一个非常，就是对双方都是非常有利的事情。那么其实就是我们也是做很多的这样子类型的一些就是项目。那其实如果你的项目只是有技术，那么有一句中国的有一个词叫做假大空。就这个是用英语说就是 fake big but empty， 里面没有什么东西，所以我们是希望用我们的技术，但是要呈现你的故事，这样只有故事才能是真正的感动所有人的一个环节。
Well, because we work together a lot, I think our story and technology is just like two legs. You walk one and the other follow, or maybe like cha-cha-cha. One forward, two back, and then you do this repeating, and they helping each other. Without this, you are not going anywhere, because when we talk about our immersive audio, that really needs high-tech support. Because without this, you are really listening to acoustic environment. Well, many years ago you do that, but with the technology that we have now, we can provide. Well, we are still advancing semi-truth, believable, immersive audio. Like here, you have three screens speaker and left, right, surround, 5.1 beginning, but now you have 7.1 or left, right, and then the back. But now you have so many speakers. Each of them can be a point source. You can locate your sound anywhere. They can work together as a group, give you environment, your rumbling, but you can have them directional from here to there, there to there. You can change your frequency, and that needs technology. Unless you are in a very enclosed box or headphone. Headphone has their different technology to enable us to listen to the immersive sound. So I think they are twin. They go together.
I think it's probably an easy agreement here that when we use complicated technology or tools, that they really should recede into the background.
Be invisible.
Yes. And unfortunately, this is the hallmark of my job. When I do it well, I'm invisible.
The better you do, you go to bed.
Yes, the more invisible I am. So let's bring the client into this. We're running short on time, so maybe we can talk a little bit about client realities. So this all sounds great, but somebody needs to pay for it, and someone needs to say, yes, let's do this. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, you have to manage your client. You have to make sure they understand expectations. You have to, like pitching a client a story, you have to pitch them on how important audio is. And we have to pay a little bit more for this audio experience, and then you have to be able to explain why it is important. And all of the things we just talked about the last hour, those things have to be explained to the client. And he buys the audio system once, hopefully, and he's not repainting scenery every year, and he's not changing wheels on a roller coaster every year, or projector lamps. Hopefully, he's just buying the system once, and I think sometimes they'll understand that.
And you talked about managing expectations. So there's a flip side to that. What can the client do to help the process?
Get out of the way.
I'm glad you said that, and I didn't have to.
Right.
That's another easy agreement on this panel. So I think we can move actually to our very last question. So this is great. So where is all this going? We've talked about some very high tech things, fancy things, simple things. We have near term things that we can do right now, and forward thinking things. So where's all this going? And I think probably what I really mean by this question is, what does it mean? How do we tell stories with this stuff?
Well, I'll just jump in really quickly, and because this sounds like a more of a technical question, but for me, it's the merging of technologies. So how is AI going to merge with audio? For instance, let's say there's a speaker there, and the speaker senses I'm one person and I'm 2 feet away, and it whispers to me. And if I walk to this side of the room, it starts to yell at me. And now this theater of one becomes a theater of 100. Does the speaker act differently now? Or does the audio source act differently? And so for me, that's a whole new tool, storytelling. When we start to talk about individual experiences, that's something I'm looking forward to. So whether you want to call it spatial audio or whatever, but that's a kind of it's not point source, it's not positioning audio, it's recognizing what the room is like.
And that's and I'll jump in because this is one of the huge challenges that we're dealing with. So it works great when you have headphones or you're an individual, but put 100, 1,000, 3,000 people in a room. We have technology to track you in that space, but we're still working on the technology to get that information to you. So I can still create a very point source image in my software, but there's still a few kinks to work out before it gets to your ears. And that really is the thing. So Paul was right. He was talking about the technical side answering this. So where is this going?
I think we want to use all this technology. So we are not creator of this technology, but if you have this kind of software, it will help me. So once I listen to it, I understand it, then I may have my own idea how to apply it. Then this is how we help the developer, the application, and then the artistic performance, with either it's in the theater or they could be a ride. So we are a family that you do one bit, I do one bit, and we add up together, and the whole industry immersive will go higher and higher. I don't think we will hit to the end in our life because we're still learning this science. Sound is quite sophisticated and complicated, and I learned 50 years of my life, I still don't understand it. But so if you have tools, I would like to use it. I want to try it.
Frida, anything to add?
我觉得我的想法也是差不多。这个就是所有的技术能够到哪一步，都是跟导演创意是一步一步相关的。就是我们有挺深的体会，就是我们在做印象的一些项目的时候，跟那个王超哥导演一起合作。那我们是给他做了一个沉浸声的一个扩声系统。那当我们把我们所有的就他给我们的文件，我们重新制作，然后给他就是放了这个效果之后，他吓了一跳。他说以前从来没有听到过这样的一个声音感觉，然后他立刻就有了一些新的想法，对于他的这个就是敦煌的那个项目的一些音乐的创作，整个的效果的创作，所以这个真的是一个互相走的一个过程。那我们的一些技术可能给了导演一些新的想法，但导演的新的想法可能对于技术来说又得需要更多的这些 IT 啊这些不同的技术领域的工种，大家一起来互相的往前走。
Really, this is a great place to wrap up, and not least of which because I think what we're bringing this back to is that this all comes down to collaboration. We all have different gifts and different tools that we use, and when we're working together, this is how we elevate the experience. We all bring our little piece to the table. Hopefully we are able to communicate and are clear with one another so that we can accomplish that result that I was talking about at the beginning. So thank you guys very much. And just a few things to think about as we leave. So Circling all the way back to the beginning, audio in general enhances your story by engaging guests in a fundamental and even a primal way. We have personalized audio. As we get into more technology, this becomes clearer and clearer. It allows us to direct interaction with guests. Each experience can be unique, nonlinear, and catered to the individual guest. And finally, we have directional audio. This is the immersive 360 using technology. Gives directors and designers a tool to draw attention to in a targeted way, creating a truly immersive environment for our guests. So thank you all very much for listening. I hope this was informative, and thanks so much for all of you for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.